what's up everybody? Yeah, it's about 11:06 here on Tuesday, election day. But I'm not going to talk about that just yet. I'm going to talk about something else. I was watching the Off the Ropes show, OTRS's TNA Impact Review, basically the Schleg Daddy doing his Impact Review. And I've noticed that he's kind of had a problem, and I'm sure he's not the only one. But he's kind of had a problem with one Mike Tenay. And here's the problem. He, among many other fans, I'm pretty sure of it, feel that Mike Tenay does not need to be broadcasting anymore. In other words, he does, well, not necessarily broadcasting, he does not necessarily need to be on the announce team. Now, we all pretty much know, for any of us that really, on a regular basis, or an occasional basis, follow Impact Wrestling and watch it every Thursday, kind of noticed a couple weeks ago that they debuted a very familiar format. Now, in case some of you don't know what this familiar format is, I'll give you a hint. It's a format that we longtime wrestling fans have seen before. Now, what is that format? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's different announce teams for every hour. That's right. You see, this format was mostly used in WCW during the Monday Night Wars. The first hour, you would have Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko. Second hour, you would have Eric Bischoff, Bobby Heenan, and when it first started, Steve McMichael. But mostly it was Tony Schiavone, Zbyszko, Bischoff, Heenan. And they still continued that format for years. They still did. At times you would have Tony Schiavone and Zbyszko, then you would have Bobby Heenan come in to take over for Zbyszko, if you will. And then of course you had Scott Hudson come in, he would do sometimes. Basically it was a rotating announce team in the later years, but when it first began, it was mostly, and for most of its time until later on, like I said, when they started rotating, which was also kind of changing up the announce team to refresh it and everything. It was mostly, you know, one two-man announce team for the first hour, one two-man team for the second hour. And it did freshen up the show. It didn't make it so boring, and that's why a lot of people were always so interested in the product. Now, for years on Impact, we either had Don West and Mike Tenay for a while, then we had Mike Tenay and Taz, and now it's kind of switched up a little bit to where you have Jeremy Borash, JB, and this Todd guy, I can't think of his last name or something like that, who used to broadcast for Hollywood Championship Wrestling, or NWA Hollywood. So you have this Todd guy and this JB guy. And I think that's Tom or Todd, I can't think of his name. But you have this new guy in JB for the first hour, and then for the second hour you have Mike and Taz. Now of course Taz wasn't there this past week due to the fact that he was dealing with issues thanks to Hurricane Sandy in Staten Island. He was dealing with that. So you had JB filling in for him, which JB does if Taz can't be there due to personal reasons. Well, Schleg Daddy watched it and pretty much concluded that it's not just Taz that's dragging down the broadcast, it's mostly Tenay. Because Tenay isn't, as he puts it, isn't as invested in the product as he used to be. For example, he pointed out that when Luke Gallows was revealed as the second unmasked member of Aces and Eights, he wasn't as enthusiastic as he used to be when new guys would be revealed or new guys would debut. Like he would be enthusiastic about someone like Christian Cage debuting, or Sting, or Rhino, or Scott Steiner. He's not that way anymore. And basically by not being that way, he drags down the product. He doesn't show his enthusiasm as much. Well, he doesn't show it basically as much as he should. And I agree. I agree. He should have put some enthusiasm when Luke Gallows was revealed. He should have said something like, "Oh my God, like, I know that guy. That's the guy formerly known as Luke Gallows," or something like that. Whatever. He should have said something like that instead of saying something like, "I know that guy. That guy's been known for bodyguarding and doing this." But I agree. He didn't put too much emphasis. He didn't put too much enthusiasm or excitement into the revelation of Gallows. He didn't. I'll give him credit. He tried his best to do it with Devon, but it didn't work. It's like, oh my God, it's Devon. I can't believe it. He didn't put as much enthusiasm. Here's the thing. When Tony Schiavone, who, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated announcers ever in wrestling, that's ever been in wrestling. When Hulk Hogan turned his back on WCW, at least Schiavone showed a lot of enthusiasm. Anytime someone from WCW would jump ship to NWO, Schiavone showed the enthusiasm. And Tenay, who worked with Schiavone, even back then did show enthusiasm, but, did show the enthusiasm that he did, but not as much as he should have. He did show enthusiasm, but not as much. And even when TNA started its run back in 2002, 10 years ago, he showed more enthusiasm than he shows now. Now, a lot of people like the Schleg Daddy will say that it's because TNA is basically not really, getting behind what they're doing. This Aces and Eights deal is a great storyline. It's potentially a great storyline. Don't get me wrong about that. But if you don't have your own announcers, hold on for a second. That's a recycle truck go by. But again, if your own announcers, even your main announcer, God, I'm probably going to get flack for this. I'm going to get flack for this. Your JR of your product, the JR of your product, your Schiavone of your product, your Kevin Kelly of your product. If you're not showing as much enthusiasm, if that person, your head announcer, your head commentator, your head play-by-play guy, if he's not showing as much enthusiasm for the product or for being invested in it, then yeah, I agree with Schleg Daddy. I agree with anybody else. I agree with the British Fist and anybody else there. I agree with the guys at that Don and Kevin show, whatever it is, with the people that post these clips from the podcast of TV Tracks and FTW Wrestling podcast. I agree with them that it's time to make a change. Hell, people may not like Michael Cole, but at least Michael Cole shows more enthusiasm than Mike Tenay. And that's saying something. Josh Matthews shows more enthusiasm than Mike Tenay does nowadays. If Mike Tenay is going to stay on as the head broadcaster, as your head play-by-play guy, then what you need to do is you need to sit him down and say and basically look him in the eye and say, you need to put more enthusiasm, you need to put more energy into this product, you need to put more energy in the revelations that happen with this Aces and Eights storyline as the weeks and months go on. You need to start showing more enthusiasm, or you need to get the blankety blank off the announce team and let this Todd guy, this new guy, or at least JB, come in and do the job for you. And that's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. That is the truth. Mike Tenay potentially can be a great announcer. He's proven it. God, who cannot forget his reaction when Elix Skipper did his high wire act on top of the 6 sides of steel in the Triple X AMW match 5-6 years ago? Who cannot forget his reaction to that? That's the kind of Mike Tenay we need. We don't need this Mike Tenay. when you got the high spots and everything, yeah, Mike Tenay does show a little bit of enthusiasm, but that's it. He needs to, but that's it. Most of the time, that's it. What you need is for him to show that enthusiasm, that energy, bring out that energy more all the time. Because if you don't, then you need to have him replaced. You need to have him get off. I mean, you have potentially you potentially have some of the best. Hold on for a second. Let the thing go by. But you potentially have some of the best announcers out there. Wrestling announcers out there, either on the independent scene or formerly commentating for bigger promotions. You have potentially some of the best out there, and you need to bring them in. And you got this Todd guy who's getting praised for his job. You know what? If he's getting praised for what he's doing, bring him in full time. Don't just say, okay, Todd or Tom, whatever his name is, you're going to be doing the first hour. No! If he potentially knows what he's talking about and he can show a little bit more enthusiasm, and he's younger, no offense, then bring him in. I mean, hell, JB, like I said, has more enthusiasm right now than Mike does. Look, the point is, I'm not trying to really knock down Mike Tenay. He's a great announcer. But he needs to dig down deep and bring out the old Mike Tenay. The Mike Tenay that did have enthusiasm when TNA first began. The Mike Tenay that basically was left shocked and breathless when Elix Skipper did his tightrope act on the 6 sides of steel. That's the Mike Tenay we need. We don't need the Mike Tenay that, like on this past Thursday on Impact, was like, oh, I know that guy. We need the Mike Tenay that's like, hey, I know that guy. We need him to be more like, oh my God. So like, wait a minute, I know that guy. That's the wrestler formerly known as Luke Gallows. Well, that's the guy formerly known as Luke Gallows from the WWE. At least show some enthusiasm. Don't drag it down and say, oh, he was a bodyguard for such and such. It's real simple. It's real simple, ladies and gentlemen. What they need to do with Mike is they need to get him off the shitter. No, excuse my language, but they need to get him off the shitter. They need to get him off the shitter and get him to do a better job at announcing, or get him off the shitter and put him someplace where he could do a decent job, where he's more tolerable. But tell me what you guys think. Do you agree with what I just said? Do you think it's time for him to get off the pot and either do his job, show more enthusiasm, or at least find a position on the broadcast team where he's more tolerable? And either let this Tom guy, whatever his name is, be brought in full time, or at least bring in somebody like JB full time, or somebody else outside of the company that knows what they do, that knows what they're doing, knows the product, and can show more enthusiasm. Tell me what you guys think. Comment down below. Video responses are welcomed, and I'll talk to you all later.